I didn't leave the safe open by accident. I wanted to see what she'd do when no one was watching, and it wrecked me in ways I didn't expect. Her name was Claudia, 46, quiet, not in a scared way, in a deliberate way, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like she's reading the room and maybe even reading you. She wasn't supposed to work for me. My regular housekeeper broke her wrist, and Claudia was sent in as a temp from the agency. I was 24, young, successful, lonely as hell. But I didn't tell anyone that. They saw the glass walls, the Range Rover, the iced espresso I never finished. They thought I had it all dialed in. She didn't. From the minute she stepped into my condo, hair tied back, eyes not meeting mine too long, but noticing everything, I knew she was different. Older, yeah, but not worn down. She had this stillness to her, like she'd made peace with things most people were still running from. She didn't ask about the art on the walls, or the view, or the absurd, curated bookshelf I never touched. She dusted. She folded. She moved through the rooms like they weren't meant to impress her. That got under my skin. So I did something petty. I left the safe open on the third Friday she came. No camera in that room. Just the hum of the air vent and a stack of cash I never even used, and an old photo tucked between the bills. My mother, laughing. Taken a month before the accident. I don't know what I expected Claudia to do. I watched from the kitchen, pretending to answer emails. She walked in. Pause. I could hear her shift her weight, probably frowning at the stupidly obvious setup. No rustling. No footsteps toward it. Peeked. She was just standing there. Then something happened I wasn't ready for. She sat down on the edge of the bed, like the weight of the safe being open was too much. And then she picked up the photo. Not the money. Not the gold pen beside it. Just the photo. She stared at it for a long time, then whispered something I couldn't hear, and cried. Not loud. Just one tear. Maybe two. She wiped it away before she stood, placed the photo back exactly where it was, and closed the safe. Not locked. Just shut. She didn't say a word when she passed me. Just nodded, like she knew what I'd done, and forgave me for it. Couldn't sleep that night. Next morning, she came back like nothing happened. Except now she made coffee exactly the way I liked it. Oat milk, half sugar, no questions. I asked her why. She said, "You look tired." That's when I noticed she'd stopped calling me sir. I started working from home more, sitting in the hallway just to hear her humming. Once, I caught her singing softly in the laundry room, something old, in Spanish. She stopped when she saw me and said, "It helps the clothes dry faster." Stupid line. But I laughed, and she smiled for the first time. It wasn't love. Not then. It was something slower, more dangerous. The turning point came 3 weeks later. She was wiping down the window pane, her sleeves pushed up. I said something, I don't remember what. A joke, maybe. But she turned to answer and I touched her hand without meaning to. Just fingertips. She froze. So did I. And then, she said quietly, "You don't need to test me again. I've already seen enough." She said, "You don't need to test me again. I've already seen enough." And then she looked away like she hadn't just cut me open with a whisper. It should have ended there. Just a touch. Just a sentence. But something tightened in my chest. A kind of panic that she was going to walk out and never come back. Not just the room. My life. So I said the dumbest thing I could have picked in that moment. "What did you see?" She paused mid-step, still facing the window. Her hands dropped to her sides. She didn't turn around when she answered. "You're lonely, but you think it makes you smart." And I swear I didn't breathe for a full 5 seconds. She left after that like usual. Quiet, no drama. But the room felt different. Like she'd peeled something back I didn't even know I'd been covering. The next time she came, she brought her own cleaner, the kind that smells like lemon and old churches. She didn't explain it, and I didn't ask. I just followed her around like an idiot with nowhere else to be. We didn't talk much that day, but the silence between us wasn't cold. It was full. 2 weeks later, I came home early, canceled a meeting I didn't need to cancel. Just wanted to be there when she arrived. I found her on the balcony, sitting, not cleaning. Her eyes were red. I'd never seen her sit down in my place before. Not once. "Claudia?" I asked, keeping my voice low. She didn't jump or apologize. Just said, "Today's the anniversary of my son." I felt like the air punched out of the room. She hadn't told me she had a son. She hadn't told me anything. "I didn't know," I said, which sounded useless the second it left my mouth. She gave a sad, crooked smile. "No reason you would." Then, "He'd be 23. That landed in my gut. I was 24, and suddenly she looked so small. Not fragile, not weak. Just undone. I sat next to her. Not too close. She was still looking out at the skyline, blinking slow, like she wasn't sure if she was going to cry or not. I wanted to ask her 100 things. What happened? When? If she was alone? If someone hurt her? But I didn't. Instead, I said the only thing that felt honest. "You don't have to clean today. Just be here. If you want." She turned to me then, and for a second, I thought she was going to tell me to stop, to shut up, to grow up. But she didn't. She just said, "Make me tea the way you like it. I want to try it." She stayed longer than usual. Didn't leave until after 9. We sat in the kitchen. Talked not about anything deep. Just music, old TV shows, what smells remind us of home. I told her basil reminds me of my mom's hands. She told me fresh rain on concrete reminds her of childhood summers in Veracruz. At one point, I made a joke. Something dry, something dumb, and she laughed. A full, unguarded laugh. That was the moment I realized I was completely screwed. Because I didn't just like her. I wanted to take care of her. And not in some savior movie kind of way. I just didn't want her to feel like she had to carry everything alone anymore. I walked her to the elevator. She looked up at me, serious now. Her voice was quiet. "Do you want me to stop coming?" My throat caught. Her hand was on my arm. Just resting. Not grabbing. But it sent heat through me like an electric wire. I should have said no right away. But my heart beat too loud. And my mouth was slow. She pulled her hand back and smiled like she understood something I hadn't said out loud. I should have said no, don't stop coming. But I hesitated. And that tiny pause, it did something to her. Like she folded herself inward. Smiled, but tighter. Like she was putting the mask back on. Next Tuesday, she didn't show. No call. No message. The condo felt sterile without her. Like the furniture had been staged for someone else's life. I told myself it didn't matter, that I'd overstepped, that she probably found a better paying job. But by Friday I cracked. I texted, "Are you okay?" She replied a few hours later, "Yes, just needed space. Back next week if you still want." If you still want. Like I hadn't been counting the hours since she left. She came back the following Monday. Same uniform, same soft shoes. But something had shifted. She didn't meet my eyes as easily, kept her answers short. I gave her space, pretended to work in the next room, until I heard the sound. Not crying, not words, glass shattering. I bolted to the kitchen. She was crouched on the floor, next to the sink. Broken teacup in pieces around her. Her hands weren't cut, but they were shaking. "I'm sorry," she said, voice tight. It slipped, but her eyes were too wide, her breath too shallow. I knelt next to her, quiet. "Claudia," I said gently. "Hey." She didn't look at me. Instead, she said, "I saw a photo on your shelf last week. A boy, maybe 5, curly hair. Was that you?" I nodded. Then, without thinking, I reached out, brushing her hand, just to still it. She didn't pull away. I had a boy with curls like that, she whispered. But he hated photos. The breath caught in my throat. We weren't talking about teacups anymore. I wanted to say something, anything. But just then my phone lit up on the counter behind us. Loud vibration. Incoming call. Sophie, 2 missed calls. She flinched. Not visibly. Just this subtle tensing, like her ribs closed tighter. Your girlfriend? She asked, standing up slowly. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing.
No.
God, no. She's just... It's nothing. Claudia gave a small nod, like it wasn't her business. Like she wasn't hoping it was nothing. But I saw it. The crack behind her eyes. She moved to the broom closet, avoiding my gaze. I followed. Claudia, I started. Really? She said, too lightly. It's fine. No, it's not, I said louder than I meant to. She turned sharply, and I stepped in too close. It just happened. Her back against the edge of the wall, my hand still holding the side of the doorway. Neither of us moved. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then my eyes, then down to the floor. If you say something now, she whispered, you can't take it back. I swallowed hard, and for the first time I didn't feel like the one in control of the room or of myself. I'm not trying to trap you, I said, voice barely audible. I can't unfeel it anymore. A pause. Then her fingers brushed the inside of my wrist. Once. Gone. And then a knock at the door. 3 short taps. We both froze. I stepped back. She turned away, fixing her sleeve like it was armor. I went to answer it, the sound of my heart louder than the knock. Before I reached the door, I heard her behind me. What would you do if no one ever knocked again? I turned, but she was already in the kitchen, pretending to wipe the counter. The knock at the door turned out to be a delivery. No signature needed, no drama. But by the time I shut it, Claudia had cleaned the counter, grabbed her tote, and was halfway out the door. I called after her, wait. But it came out thin, like I didn't have the right anymore. She paused, hand on the doorknob, didn't turn around. She didn't come for 3 days. I didn't try to contact her, and maybe that was my own way of testing myself, seeing if I could undo the feeling before it got too far. Couldn't. Friday, 6:12 p.m. She came back, later than usual.
No abren.
Different coat. I'm not staying long, she said by the door, not quite looking at me. Okay, I said, stepping aside, but my hands were shaking. She walked in like she hadn't been here 100 times. Eyes cautious, like the walls might say something she wasn't ready to hear. I shouldn't have touched you, I said suddenly. Came out too fast, too raw. She looked at me finally, directly. I didn't mind the touch, she said. Then, almost a whisper, I minded what it meant. We stood in the hallway, the soft hum of the fridge filling the space between us. Her bag slipped off her shoulder, hit the floor with a soft thud. She didn't pick it up. I've cleaned this place for 6 months, she said. Every week. I try not to notice how quiet it is, how many mugs stay clean, how your lights are on when they shouldn't be. She paused. And then you started watching me like I was the one with secrets. I stepped forward before I could think. I wasn't watching you for that, I said. She raised an eyebrow. For what then? For signs, I said. That I wasn't losing my mind. That you felt it too. The hallway suddenly felt smaller. She leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. Defensive but not dismissive. I'm twice divorced, she said. I've buried a child. I iron pillowcases when I'm anxious. You think you see me, but I do, I interrupted. Too fast again. I do see you. That's the problem. She shook her head, a humorless smile tugging at her mouth. You see pieces. The calm part. The part that doesn't need anything. That's not real. My voice came lower this time. Then show me the rest. A pause. Then another. She looked up at me, and there was something there now. Not longing. Not fear. Just surrender. Of the guarded kind. I wake up every morning and check the time like it's a punishment, she said softly. And then I come here, and I breathe differently. The words lingered, hung in the air like steam. She took one small step toward me. You think this is simple? She whispered. This, what's happening? I shook my head, throat tight.
No.
But I don't want simple. Then, I want you. And just like that, she kissed me. Not a full kiss. Not even lips. Just her forehead resting against my chin. Her breath warm. Her hand brushing my chest. Barely. The kind of almost kiss that breaks something. Then she pulled back. Slowly. And looked up at me. Eyes shining but unreadable. What are we doing? She asked. But she wasn't really asking me. And I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because the next move, it had to be hers. We didn't kiss again. We didn't talk much. She stayed, though. Not overnight. But longer than usual. We sat in the quiet like two people circling something they weren't brave enough to name. Then she stood, and I offered to walk her to her car. She didn't say yes, but she didn't say no either. We stepped into the elevator together. And that's when the twist hit. Lobby. Doors opened. A woman stood there, holding a clipboard brown trench coat, sharp chin, agency logo on her badge. Claudia? She said, tilting her head. I was just coming up. I thought you stopped taking the Mercer account. My stomach dropped. Claudia froze. I did, she said. I was just dropping something off. The woman glanced at me, took in my bare feet, the way I was standing too close to Claudia, then back at her. You okay? That question wasn't about safety. It was about boundaries. I stepped forward instinctively, ready to say something, anything. But Claudia's hand caught my wrist, barely a squeeze, a warning. I'm fine, she said, her voice suddenly formal. I'll call you tomorrow. The woman didn't smile, just nodded once and walked out into the night. Elevator doors closed. I stared at Claudia. What was that? I asked. She sighed, slow and heavy. Didn't look at me. That was someone who knew me when I wasn't surviving yet. The answer made my chest ache. She finally looked at me, and for the first time in weeks, she seemed afraid. I didn't tell the agency I kept working here, she said. They think I moved on, got something quieter. I didn't want questions. Why? Because it was personal, she snapped. You were personal. I didn't flinch. I deserved that. But I'm not ashamed of this, I said gently. Of you. That's not the point, she whispered. Then, after a pause, I can't afford to be misunderstood again. We rode the elevator back up in silence. I should have left it there. But when we stepped into the apartment, I said the one thing I shouldn't have. You should have told me. She stopped mid-step, her back to me, then turned slowly. I didn't tell you because this wasn't supposed to happen, she said. You weren't supposed to matter. The words hit hard. But her face said something else. Regret, panic, maybe guilt. And now I do? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. Then, my son. He used to come to this building. I blinked. What? She nodded, slow. Before he died. He worked part-time in this tower. Delivery runs. He'd talk about the people up here like they were gods. One of them once gave him a $100 tip for carrying groceries to the elevator. He was so proud. My heart began to pound. I live in 23B, I said. Always have. She nodded again, tighter this time. He said your door was the only one with a fingerprint lock. He thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Daher.
Are you saying? I didn't know until I saw your mother's photo, she said. It hit me. Her face. He described it. Said she smiled big and always smelled like cinnamon. My throat closed. I felt dizzy. That means he came to my door. She nodded. I think it was your mother who gave him that tip. Silence. Loaded. Fragile. Cracking between us like glass under weight. She was crying now, but not hiding it. I stepped toward her. Not knowing what this meant. Not knowing what came next. Only that this wasn't a coincidence anymore. It was fate. Wrecked. Unraveled. Unfair. But fate. She looked up at me, eyes full of things I couldn't yet name. Then she asked, barely above a whisper, "What are we supposed to do with this?" She asked me, "What are we supposed to do with this?" And I had no answer. Not because I didn't feel something for her. God. I did. But because everything that connected us now felt bigger than timing or attraction. Her son. My mother. The tip. The photo. Me leaving that safe open like a boy looking for proof someone decent still existed. And there she was. The proof. And the wound. She sat on the couch, hands in her lap, her face stripped bare. No walls left. I kept coming back because you reminded me of him, she said. Not just how you look, but the way you pretend you're fine when you're not. I sat across from her, elbows on my knees. I kept asking you to stay, I said quietly, because you made this place feel less like a museum. She smiled, tired. We're both ghosts in here. A long silence followed. No music.
No ticking clock.
Just the low hum of the building and our breathing. Then, finally, she looked at me. Really looked. I'm too old for you, she said. Not just in years. In damage. I don't care, I said. You should. I know. Another silence. Heavier. I still talk to him, she said. My son. When I'm folding towels. Or when I see someone with eyes like his. I swallowed. Do you think he'd hate this? Us? She shook her head slowly. I think he'd be suspicious. But not because of you. Because of me. I didn't understand at first. Then she added, I've built my life around loss. I stopped trusting good things. The honesty knocked the air from my lungs. I don't want to be a good thing that scares you, I said. She looked down at her hands, picked at the hem of her sleeve. I don't want to run, she whispered. But I don't know how to stay without breaking something. I reached forward, gently took her hand. She didn't pull away this time. You already stayed, I said. You stayed when I left the safe open. When I said the wrong things. When I stared too long. She looked at me, eyes rimmed red. I held her gaze. You've been here. Even when it hurt. Her lips parted. Trembled. Closed again. And then she said it. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but like it had been sitting inside her for years. I don't want to keep surviving. I want to live again. And I think I could try. With you. That was it. No music swelled. No grand kiss. Just her hand tightening around mine. Just two people sitting in a too-quiet condo, scared to hell, and staying anyway. I left the safe open because I didn't trust anyone. She closed it without touching the money, and cracked me open instead. That was 6 months ago. She doesn't clean my apartment anymore. She comes over on Wednesdays with soup or music recommendations or nothing at all, and we sit on the balcony where she once cried and I once said too little. She brings her past with her, but she doesn't let it run the room anymore. I stopped pretending to be fine all the time. Turns out being seen is a habit too. One you have to let yourself learn, slowly. We don't live together. We don't make plans we can't promise. But last week, she left a toothbrush by my sink, quietly, without a speech. That meant more than any "I love you" could've. She stopped folding herself into who she thought she was allowed to be. I stopped waiting for people to prove they'd leave. We started talking about her son more. We lit a candle for my mother on her birthday. There's this small, strange peace in knowing the people we lost somehow brought us to each other. She still flinches at certain things. I still mess up the quiet sometimes. But we talk now, with our eyes, our silences, our stupid, careful laughter. Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it enters through the back door, barefoot, and just starts doing the dishes. Sometimes it shows up in the woman who sees your worst test and passes it, without needing to be told it was a test. And if you're lucky, if you don't ruin it, that love stays. Even if it's complicated. Especially if it's complicated. She stood in front of the safe again last week. I saw her pause. This time, I wasn't watching to see what she'd do. I already knew. She turned to me and smiled. "You still haven't changed the code." I smiled back. "I don't need to."